Okay, so we've got one, we've got two, and potentially three. So that's the plan. We're gonna come up with something fun. Ooh, that's gonna look great. I'm glad there's no paint on it. Not sure the subject matter quite yet, but anyway. Okay, so we'll talk about subject matter. So I think you literally could go online and you go look at pictures. You could just take a picture, divide it into thirds, and start there. You could also do something where you, let's say you know that you want your focal point to be in the middle section, which is great if that's your perspective. But you know, sometimes it's kind of fun to divert the perspective to another area in the canvas, but still leaving yourself, let's say this is the edge of the canvas, you would still want some subject matter that would be moving your eyes maybe over here to the bird, kind of which is here. Okay, so we have lots of just simple palm trees, little town back there. We've got little winery, some definite colors that kind of stand out, which is really not about the color. This is about subject matter and how you literally could take any one of these pictures and divide it into three and kind of have a project. Okay, so I'm definitely going to play with this idea. Just going to take a generic pencil here, and I really like the idea of just making random line across my panel. Now, this could be a hill, this could be an island coming here, but what we're doing basically is changing the focus of where that focal point's going to be. Okay, so I've decided to take this little photo here, and I'm saving my ink so it's black and white. That way we aren't dependent on color. And what I'm going to do is divide this into three pieces so that we know which part of this picture goes on what part of the panel. Now I'm just made some little markings here. I'm going to divide this in three. Okay, now I don't know if you have your own Cricut, which I don't have a Cricut, but I definitely have this little paper cutter, and this works really good. I like doing things one time, so if you measure it out, cut it once, you're good to go. But always measure twice. Make sure it's lined up really, really well to the top of the paper, because like I said, once you cut,
there's no going back.
There's no going back. Here we go. One.
Did you smack it?
I sure did. And two. Each one of these will be a panel. So there's one.
There's two.
And three.
There's three.
Okay, so we've taken the portrait, the little picture. I've put a little bit of tape and I've also numbered it. So I've got 1, 2, 3 panels. First one. So you can put that right there. Tape it on the back. This would be number 2. To the back of the canvas, not the front. So that's going to be our second panel. And then our third panel will go here. Now, but for continuity, especially when you're mixing paints, I think you should be able to have all three canvases going. That's what I'm going to do, because I want to be able to, if I'm going to use the same colors consistently, mixing is intentional, but there is a tendency you could have a change in tone. So that's what I'm going to do with all three at one time. this middle canvas here. We note that that horizon really is about halfway through. So we need to make sure that that halfway point is on our canvas. Okay, so I basically put in the basics of the sand. And as you note, I'm working from black and white. That way I'm not totally influenced with their colors, just what I want to do. So I have some water because we're using acrylic, and I have my two basic brushes here. But now what I'm going to do is add a layer to kind of make this more sandy looking. One thing I do want to point out is when I'm going from canvas to canvas, especially with the sand, it's important that I went over both. That way all the colors came from one side to another. Does that make sense?
That's green.
Oh yeah, yellow and blue make green, bro. Do it all you want, dude. It's gonna be green. Boy, you ain't having no blue mac and cheese. Yo, why you gotta pick the good color? Can I just get a little bit?
No.
Yo, what are you doing, bro?
Okay, so we are on the third. Well, not on the third right now, but she's working on some green. Is it grass?
Yeah, it's called a grassy knoll. And so I'm doing what's called blocking. So I'm just throwing colors in there, and then I'll blend it later. It'll make sense later.
Okay.
But for now, I'm just trying to get the color in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what we have so far.
Looks really good.
Looks great. Boy.
Oh, okay, I got it. Thank you. Very good. Okay, so this is my cameraman, my camera woman, my lady. All right, so we've done a lot since we left off here. We've put in the sand, and we have added some of this light lavender. That's going to be the foundation of our shadows. And we've put in our water line, our little horizon here. This is our grassy knoll. This is what I call blocking. And what it is the basic foundation of your landscape. And then, you know, we'll put in our palm tree, because as you can see in this case, we put in our water line. We have a mountain, a little hill to put in. And then all of this is going to be all palm tree. Okay, we are day 2. And today we're going to work on the sky and the back landscape where the hill was, and then we'll just take it from there. Okay, so I still have my leftover paint, and I'm gonna use a little bit more blue. A little bit of it's a lot of sky in here, and you also see that our tree has a lot of space content on the canvas, but there is some sky in here, so we're just going to put it in as though the tree wasn't there yet, because it's our backdrop anyhow. So I'm just mixing a little bit of white, a little bit of blue, so I get that nice light sky looking color. Brush. So if you have an oil brush, you run a risk of mixing the color. I think if you're scratching it in, it would be okay. So, but you want to fill the brush tip. Let's just go ahead and try it. So, you're able to move it a little bit more. Just want to fill in that canvas as much as you can. And you know, the sky is not all one color canvas. You want the two to blend. So that's important. Then you can go back and kind of put it in there. But as long as you're covering both canvases so that it blends, when you hang it on the wall, it'll be a continuous flow. Okay, so we've kind of sped our way through the sky. And what I want to just acknowledge here is that because in this panel here, the sky has basically come right to the horizon. And it's also the furthest part away. So I'm taking this, it's about 1/8 of an inch space, and I'm coming in here with the smallest brush to kind of finish off this horizon, to make sure that that line stays very still and straight. And this is the panel that I'm gonna let this one dry the longest, because I want to make sure that we really salvage this area, because that has our perspective as being far away, and that the end of this grassy knoll with the 2 palm trees is our focus. That's going to probably have the most detail. So I want to make sure that this horizon is preserved and very crisp. In this panel here, you can see that we're going to have this little distant mountain. So we want this horizon to be kind of crisp as well. Look at the middle of this picture. The end of that cliff, or the end of this little mountain, is almost in the middle, right about here. So I'm just going to make sure that we kind of stop our skyline right there. At this point, I think at this point you could probably do some cleanup work. For instance, if you were going to frame this painting, excuse me, you wouldn't necessarily have to tidy up the sides. But if you're going to, not frame them and you're going to put them on the wall, you probably want to take some of these colors and you're going to true them up before you go any further. So that's something I would, because we're letting our sky dry. So these little homeworks, you could probably do these while the sky is drying. Okay, we have now trued up all the sides as much as we can for the sky, the water, and also the other thing that I did was I went ahead and kind of touched up wherever I thought the water needed some work. So if the water's coming on the sand, I wanted to kind of take advantage of that and just really crisp out what the beach is going to look like. So now we'll move on to our landscape. As possible, because he's supposed to be far away. Okay, now at first glance, you're going to see different colors because we're trying to scrub in some of the textures. As you can see, there's a lot of texture in that. Smooth in the back, textured out front. So the way I'm doing it is I'm going to, I'm pushing my brush in different spaces, creating texture. And then when I'm pushing color, you want to grab from other areas that you've already mixed. So in my case, I kind of have this space here, and then I just kind of add a little bit of yellow to kind of lighten up this texture. You want to add some in here and leave space for kind of the dark stuff to